killed that call. It went really well. Radio's gonna be huge.
So now that you're feeling better, let's go over everything you've missed so you can get right back into the selling game. So just to give a quick overview of our industry, we have companies like ours, Sapphire Advertising, who do digital advertising and use data analytics to create targeted ads for our clients. So for example, if Uber was our client and wanted to target specific customer groups, we would use data analytics in order to figure out the proper targeting strategy and platforms to use. We then work with publishers and media companies to buy these ad spaces in advance. Some of these are Facebook, Snapchat, or Google. For example, if Uber wanted to target specific customer groups, we would use data analytics in order to figure out the proper targeting strategy and platforms to use. We then work with publishers and media companies such as Facebook, Snapchat, and Google to buy these ad spaces in advance. We then have our internal creative group that actually makes the elements of these advertising campaigns. But our job as salespeople is to sell our advertising and analytics services to our clients and build long-term relationships with them. So the industry started with traditional advertising platforms like print, radio, and television. Salespeople here mainly sold creative ideas, ad campaign elements, and mass media metrics like total viewer and listener engagement. The next shift was towards online advertising through the use of keyword advertising on search engines. Here, the main focus of selling was on the ability to generate higher clicks per minute, cost per click, overall reach, and click-through rates. The final shift was towards social media, video, and mobile advertising. This led to an increase in data available about end consumer habits and behaviors. So now we sell based on actual conversion metrics such as number of installs, revenue per visit, rate of return, and channel-specific traffic. Allison, since you're a recent graduate, why don't you come up and tell us a little bit about the forces that are changing our industry going forward?
So in terms of the advertising industry, we see three key forces that are impacting selling. As the industry shifts towards online and mobile advertising, we see more and more players entering this market, especially smaller competitors, and this makes it more and more difficult for people to differentiate themselves. And what we see is as technology continues to disrupt this industry, I believe organizations will be challenged to prove superior ROI relative to these competitors to win these clients. So in terms of market expectations, as consumer preferences shift towards online mediums, clients are now looking for lower cost mobile ad solutions. In addition, clients have increasing expectations of us, the salespeople, because the industry is becoming more and more data driven. This is because clients are looking for ad companies that can now prove tangible data driven ROI. And I think this is really going to change the selling game because our job as salespeople is to prove beyond just the content of the ad campaigns, but also the ability to leverage and analyze user data to really tailor these ads to reach the right target audience. And lastly, it's the buyer process. And this is affecting professional selling and sales management because it's important to understand how we actually sell to the buyer. With the emergence of new metrics and data analytics, product complexity is increasing, which means there's a need for personal interaction in the buyer process. So the sales team is a crucial function in an ad company to secure clients. However, with technology and the use of analytics becoming a norm in this industry, the buying process will become increasingly automated, and research shows that almost half of global spending on digital ads is already automated. This puts pressure on the role of salespeople as an intermediary in the future.
So we talked about everything I missed, but where do you see the industry actually going?
So in terms of the future, technology will continue to disrupt the advertising industry as more and more ads will shift towards mobile and digital mediums. So some of the key takeaways moving forward, the ability to collect, synthesize, and analyze data and different metrics will really drive the value that ad companies bring to clients. And unlike traditional channels like TV and billboards that target the mass audience, companies are now looking to personalize their different ads towards tailored segments so the appropriate message reaches the right consumers. And lastly, as the sales process becomes more automated, companies will be able to complete most of the process directly online, including choosing their own platform, ad space, and payment. So over the next 5 years, the role of sales for advertising companies will really shift from in-person to much more online virtual interactions.
Okay, so the theory sounds great, but how can I actually put this into practice?
Well, why don't we actually try to sell to one of the prospects we've been looking at for a long time, Uber.
Okay, sounds good.
The best practices for selling in our industry have actually changed over the years. When it comes to reaching out to prospects, LinkedIn has become a popular tool among salespeople in our industry. Let's look up for a specific contact at Uber that we can set up a meeting with. So what we need to do is find the actual person who makes the purchasing decision. In our case, we need to find the media buyer at Uber.
What about this guy, Albert Dorfman? He's the media buyer at Uber. Why don't we email him?
That's great. Let's set up a meeting for Monday.
So as you can see over here, we lead every company with the highest amount of quality installs, which means that users not only install our apps, but they show frequent usage of the apps. And as a result of these quality installs, we also yield the highest return per net new user for our clients.
Do you guys have any proof or any metrics about that?
Yeah, sure. So here's a report from similar companies we've worked with in the past. And as you can see, we have the highest revenues per visit than competitors, and we also guarantee the highest conversion to pay ratio in the industry.
Okay, these metrics look really good actually. You know, at Uber over the past 4 or 5 years, we've been really focused on kind of having a metrics-driven approach, and we want to make sure that we get the best ROI out of any company that we pick for advertising, because there are just so many companies in the industry. And it looks like you guys have the best metrics that we're looking for, so I think you have yourself a deal.
Okay, great.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. So thank you very much for teaching me everything today. So just to recap and make sure that I really understood what you were saying, I have 3 key takeaways. So the first key takeaway is that there's a higher need to train your sales team. So salespeople need to have the technical expertise to answer their buyer questions relating to data and their metrics used. The second key takeaway is that we need to adapt to constantly shifting metrics. So technology will continue to drive introduction of new metrics and data uses. So managers need to be aware and adapt accordingly. And the third key takeaway is that we need to really stay ahead of industry trends. So as the industry shifts towards mobile, executives need to be aware of how technology will continue to disrupt the advertising industry into the future.
So as someone just out of college, do you have any advice in terms of how I can enter the industry?
Yeah, for sure. So many advertising companies actually prefer recent graduates over people with industry experience. And this is because students fresh out of college are often easier to teach because they don't actually have any previous knowledge, so they can really focus on our specific company and industry. As well, while not always required, we do prefer people with an undergraduate degree, and if you have courses and knowledge on marketing or business, that's definitely preferred. And so in terms of the selection process, there's many stages. There are multiple interviews, tests, and even group tasks that are involved. As well, once you get the job offer, there's usually fairly extensive training, with weeks of focused teaching, as well as one-on-one coaching while you're on the job with an experienced sales manager.
As the industry demands more metrics and data to maximize ROI of campaigns, ad companies have their own data algorithms that enable them to identify which platforms will optimize the company's reach to their specific target market, and afterwards track these users and their app usage patterns to provide detailed, quality insights on the effectiveness of the campaign. This allows them to constantly iterate and adjust their advertising campaigns so clients can achieve certain metrics and returns. Furthermore, many of these ad companies have purchased specialized companies such as mobile app startups or attained resources to gain expertise in the digital ad space that is probably much more extensive than the client. For example, let's say a mobile e-commerce organization wanted to launch a mobile acquisition campaign with the objective of not just acquiring active users, but users with high post-install engagement rates. The first step for the ad company would be to identify which channels and marketing strategies deliver the optimal acquisition quality and scale. Then they would launch various campaigns on Facebook and Instagram, and using their data algorithm can determine the optimal combination that drives the highest quality conversions at the lowest cost. The ad company can also test user targeting strategies. For instance, data would show that applying interest-based methods over demographic targeting results in better user reach and performance. By choosing the appropriate channel mix and targeting method, the ad company can then create a unique and tailored digital ad campaign strategy for the client and track metrics like number of installs or conversion ratios to show the client tangible returns.
We spoke to Paulina, former sales manager at Tactica, an international ad agency based in Tel Aviv with offices around the world, including in San Francisco, Beijing, and London. After reviewing our video, she provided the following testimonial.